what's the right fit for 2026, which I know is a struggle every year. Um, I just want to point out a couple things, and you all know far more than I do in terms of understanding this, but it appears, at least based on the document I printed out that's going to get presented to you by Brittany in about an hour and a half. The COLA is going to end up at 2.7. Riley County Police Department's ending up at 2.4. Tomorrow night, a discussion will happen with the city commission on whether or not they're going to stick with its city manager's recommendation of a zero COLA, as opposed to some commissioners that would like to see a 3% COLA. What I don't understand, and I'm not really expecting an answer, it's just more of a monologue here, as you know, is that if you all use the same data, how do you derive at different COLAs other than your own generosity of the taxpayer's dollar? Right, Geary County is looking at 1% COLA. Junction City hasn't decided yet. So how can you go from 1% to 2.7? I mean, you can. I mean, you can. That's just the way it works. But unfortunately, that's to the detriment of the taxpayer, which is the challenge that you have as elected officials, which is a very hard challenge. I would just encourage you to continue to be as transparent as possible in terms of information that you provide. It's hopefully printed correctly at the Mercury and other medias. Continue to explain to the citizens, because I don't think it's going to happen from a documentation standpoint on the tax statements, where how much of this increase that you're looking at, which I don't remember the dollar amount that's on Brittany's paperwork, but how much of this is going to be RCPD? I think it's really important to try to figure out a better way to educate the public on how much of this increase that's going to take place, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.6 million, something like that. How much of that is going to RCPD compared to last year? Continue to espouse that differential so people understand that it's not all Riley County expenses. I mean, yeah, the COLA's Riley County expenses of 750,000 or whatever it is in raises or what COLA adjustments. But RCPD is going to continue to be a challenge until there's some significant changes. Personnel is going to continue to be a challenge for you all, as it is for other cities. Doing more, or at least the equal amount with the same number of people or fewer people, is going to be the big rub, because at some point, as you know, as you struggle with the fact that I think 40 billion of the 10 billion in appraised value is exempt, and you struggle with that because no other county in Kansas has that high a percentage, of which I guess you can't control, that's understandable. But I just want to encourage you to try to find ways to be more efficient with the taxpayer dollar. The fee dollars are the fee dollars. You pay for it. And I think that Rich said it well 2 meetings ago, something like that, 3 meetings ago, I don't remember, and I watched it on the video, where Rich made the reference to the fact that this is a highly academic community, and therefore those academics or academicians have a high expectation of public service. Well, I'm not an academician. I don't know what percentage is an academician, but they can afford to pay for it. The common folks like myself, and honestly, like a lot of people, they can't. So continue vigilant on behalf of the taxpayer. That's who elected you. And they elected you for one reason and one reason only, not your party affiliation, but one reason, because they believed that you were the best person to put in that chair to make decisions on their part. And those decisions impact their dollars. So I know the mill levy's this, and that's the way it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. No comments? Commissioner.
Yeah, okay. Well, Thursday afternoon, I attended the July meeting of the Crisis Intervention Team at the second floor conference room in the other building there. Major topic of discussion was the upcoming 2025 CIT class and schedule that will take place in Manhattan at the Public Workshop building starting July 21st, which I guess is next Monday, running through the 25th. We discuss each day's worth of classes and the breakdown of all the presenters' topics that we'll be presenting during the days for that particular event. Also went through each of the meeting agendas for NACO's Community Economic Workforce Development and the Veterans and Military Services Committees that I serve on. Of course, those meetings were taking place at the annual conference and exposition. It's taking place in Philadelphia. Be finishing up here, I believe, tomorrow. And just wanted to keep caught up on everything that's being worked on. Most of those are just policy resolutions that'll get passed tomorrow afternoon, more than likely, during your annual business meeting. And spent the rest of the weekend just catching up on correspondence and preparing for the upcoming week. And that's basically it.
Okay. Guess it's my turn.
Yeah, we're good.
Friday, I attended the pre-law board meeting held at the Law Enforcement Center. The agenda for the July 21st meeting was discussed. Several items were changed or eliminated. And there will be an executive session at the meeting. Meetings temporarily scheduled in the county are on August 28th in Leonardville and September 15th in Ogden. Those haven't been totally confirmed yet. Several other, there will be a vote of the board for contract for services at Rockland Plains event. So I think they're asking for traffic control.
They still don't have a permit for them, but
Yeah, I know. It's kind of,
I still figure that out.
yeah. Let's see, and then several other items were discussed and not put up, not on the agenda. Saturday, I attended and provided flowers for the wedding of two good friends. I was held at the Union Hall on Saturday. And I had not been in an event there. It's a really a good event space to use. Sunday, I attended church and in the afternoon went over today's agenda and all the documents. The one thing that I have a question on that kind of refers to Gary. I put the last presentation for colonies to 4.
No, there's two.
I didn't think.
2-7.
So,
Always been 2-7.
CPD was 2-4.
okay, well, that's all I have.
Weddings, we were down in town Saturday afternoon, driving through town. We saw 3 different places with weddings. You know, you see the people going in now, you coming out taking pictures or in that was a popular day for weddings.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
So Thursday afternoon, I met with the owner and manager for Tut Creek Developers. They're doing a lot of work in Oldsburg and Randolph. In Oldsburg, they were one of the first RHID projects. They actually started in 2019. They completed 6 homes that were all sold before they were completed and have 2 more that are getting started soon. In Randolph, they renovated the old stone house on Highway 77. Been sitting vacant for a long time. In the offices, it's really neat place, really nice inside. And they've done some commercial development along the highway, and then they have plans for housing behind that area. Not RHID, they have other ways they're doing it. They just wanted to discuss what their work is, what their plans are for the future. I'm impressed. They're really doing a good job up there.
Yeah, where those houses, where do they sell for in the garden back?
Yes.
Because they did do some of them.
No,
Is that a different?
they haven't done anything.
Okay.
Yeah. They're playing, but they've got, I'm thinking other ways, working with the city to fund them.
Yeah.
That's, oh, I have, I'll say, I'm seeing weddings coming in and out of churches all over town.
Yeah.
Ready for business, commissioners? First item, only item of business we have. Valley County Employee Action Form, Jessica M. McDonald, volunteer firefighter, separation of service, all 3 please sign.
Yeah, way through July.
Commissioners, any change to the minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented on July 10th, 2020.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes in July 10th meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Tentative agendas, look, commissioners. Remember, we have the policy breakfast next Thursday morning. And then any items for next week's press conference, commissioners?
That's this Thursday morning.
That's what I meant to say. So
Oh, okay.
that's not meant. Yes, thank you for correcting that this Thursday. Okay, Mr. Ellerman is up at 9 o'clock. Public Works update. Little break.
Hi guys, I'm Rosemary Bacher. I've been filling in for Laura while she's in. So
Oh,
she will be back next week, but until then, you have me.
okay.
So, it's nice to meet you guys. Yeah.
Well,
I should.
I was gonna say, this is not our normal space, but
Yeah.
we're making do pretty well. I think.
So,
Yeah.
so. Well.
Rose, how do you spell your last name?
GRUENBACHER.
No, I didn't. So I don't think it's gonna be that hard.
That's okay. Yes, very good. Thank you guys. Very important. I'm starting at 8:30 this day.
Yeah, 9 o'clock, yeah. I have to remind myself that though too.
So, it's big, no accident.
Yeah, I know.
Excuse me. How you doing? Good weekend?
Yes. It's nice.
All of us have said the same thing today that I've talked about today. How did they go so quickly? Practicing dock jumping this weekend?
No, we did the weekend before and next weekend. Strange hobbies.
What?
Strange hobbies.
Cool. I think it's
It's
cool.
pretty enough. You. got
Be sitting on the
something.
couch,
Well, that's true.
you know, gotta have something to do.
Now you've got some athletic dogs.
Yeah, but mine are more hunting, you know, so that's what we do with ours, you know, the majority of them get sold as pets, you know, but mine aren't really built to be the dock jumpers, you know, they're usually the leader, faster, and mine's a little thicker, musclier.
We have someone that goes a little pretty
Uh-huh,
that also jumps. The dog just does it.
uh-huh. Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure they'd love it. I got one in particular, but that it wouldn't be high performing. They're not really built to be the high performing ones for that event. No, I think it's super cool. Morning, John.
Friend of mine just, not for sure if it's a partial tear or a full tear of his left bicep Friday.
I completely wrong,
Yeah.
but it is nice. Bicep.
He didn't fix your bicep?
She said, I wasn't complaining, I didn't.
He said what?
Bothered me, so she just said, let's say it. Not my, he talks about. it. Not my- I wonder if it was bad enough, he didn't wanna dig in there and try to find it.
That seems odd because I went in on my last one and I didn't know my bicep was torn and they fixed it and said, oh, your bicep was torn, so we fixed it.
It was funny, it's the weekend when it's wet, it's dark. They had a mechanical full.
Did you ride it?
I said, I was just riding, so they can throw me off, figure out how I can throw off the left side and then I'll get my assist, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Next time.
Great stuff. Just really. He was out here. We had to switch on.
I did the same thing in the first trying to print my office.
Switch from one to the other. No. Yeah, so. We just wanted to. Where I'm changing their Western twin side of the four design, honest, 10-year Texas.
The city's looking at that tomorrow, is that right?
Yeah, right. Always easy to do it the first time.
Well, I don't know if I know how to do that. You know, it's not, thanks so much. That I don't do it in care. Yeah. Yeah, you do. I don't think that's what you. But no.
Almost done with my son's landscaping, got one more load of gravel. One more 10,000 pound load of gravel by shoveling. Did 15,000 on Saturday. Oh, that's right. My load right hands. Hip area, I've got something that's. Yeah, back hand, not fun. And mine's irritated when I lay down too. So I've been popping lots of ibuprofen. I think that's done. Last of the landscaping material laid, last plants planted yesterday morning, but we ran out of rock, so.
You had real wood people.
Yeah, geez, that rock is not fun.
I'm looking for you. Quickly for some nice, Japanese box, or big box of, there's some big box. Well, that was fun. I was like, the church and I was grandpa's staying. I'd seen before, they're looking through this, like, oh, this back, the developer. But because somebody. Who, they. It was 3 days before we met.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool. So that's special memory
Yeah,
then.
what he. Yeah, turned over the seal. Like, it's kind of, oh, that's right.
That was VG before Greg.
Yeah. 3 days. Look happy then.
Got a big smile on her face.
You haven't used your left hand in there.
That fancy move over there.
Slide, oh yeah, there you go.
Well, I can maybe do it right, I can hold it. Won't put it in the wrong place. There we go.
Another one of those for you, or not sensitively, you have to adjust it so you can kind of
It's just
feel your fingers and then push it back.
in the way.
Yeah.
Board of Commission, John Ellerman, Public Works, with my monthly update. Kind of go through some of these fairly quick. I think we got not much going on with Winkler, still working in right away and easements with the property changing hands from an estate or to an estate. And so we're gonna figure out who and what to pay and how to get that in there. So that's taken a little bit. Marlat Road, I was told the other day, the survey has been completed on, they may be picking up a few odds and ends, but they are now getting ready to, or into the design phase of that project. Courthouse Plaza windows, had a pre-construction again last week with BHS. Window demo will start Wednesday. They will start in the community correction side, and then Monday they'll demo the window in the elections storage room, and hopefully have that in by that Wednesday. Windows are coming, yeah, and then they'll start installing windows on that Monday, the 21st.
Is that upstairs or is it down?
The basement, the one in the first floor where they store the machines. There's a one window,
There is one.
yeah. That,
I didn't remember.
Very back.
yeah,
On the backside?
yeah, it's on the alley side.
Is that gonna be a real secure window like on that?
We asked them to do that on a Monday, so it wouldn't be boarded up over the weekend and with the activity that happens in that alley. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, hopefully it won't be so bad. Not as much traffic in the alley.
Very high up window. It's not good standard. It's
Oh,
one
okay.
that's probably 7 foot off the
They're
ground.
gonna have to do some effort to get in that window if they really want to get in there.
And we'll have
And getting machines out would be a little tough about it.
Yeah, well, yes.
some of our temporary election workers will be sitting in there the whole time to watch the equipment. And we have to have someone monitoring the entire process.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that. So, okay, great.
So-
I'll have to go look at that window. I don't know if I've ever looked at that.
It was
window.
probably too dark and dingy to tell any light was coming through, so no wonder you didn't see it. It's one of the worst windows in the facility for sure.
Mhm.
Machines moved over to
They've moved last week. and
fire department.
I think they're situated anyway for now. Yeah, they have a lot of cleanup that they did in there while they were doing it. And so there's a hallway full of surplus stuff that we have to go pick up this week yet. I think tomorrow. There's elevator project. I think we're still waiting for parts. And so depending on what parts come when, if they come here soon, we'll be starting with the health department and moving maybe to Carnegie and the courthouse. They were wanting us to stay away from a certain dates in August to not be in the way of court. So Parks Department, they have mowing, of course, summer stuff, mowing parks and grounds, set up to clean up after the hog show that was this weekend and start preparing for the fair in 2 weeks. Did some spraying for weeds around trees and that. We had a couple techs that took the training class for their CDLs. So we got a couple parks techs that want to get their CDLs. They did some repair of, had somebody come in and repair the pavers in the patio of the Hot Hall that were kind of uneven, so get rid of some of the trip hazards we had out there. And then there was some repairs done to the dog park. Drainage flow, washouts there at Fairmount Park. Operation side, they're getting ready for the Purple Wave auction. Bids open up on the 14th and they'll close on the 19th. Chip seal has been completed. And Alvin's trying to get the striper to come in and stripe scenic so that people know where to go on it. It's kind of free for all right now without any stripes on it. We do have the tabs, but yeah, they didn't look so hot when I drove through it yesterday. Waiting for Schilling to let us know when they're gonna start the overlay projects. The crews mowed the drainage ditch from Valleywood down to Marlot, a couple weeks or a week ago. They lined the lagoons with rock, at Terra Heights. Grading roads as the moisture allowed, rocking the roads as needed. We had a traffic control tech that had went through the CDL training too. So we had 3 weeks where they were doing the practice driving for the CDLs, and I think one of them was supposed to go this week to get tested. So they're holding interviews for the operator position today. I'm starting some interviews today. We interviewed for the operations manager last week and made an offer to the assistant operations manager. Waiting for them now to complete his pre-hire drug tests and stuff. We have Public operators. We have a parks and facility grounds tech open that just opened. And as of Friday morning, I'll be back next week or whenever I can get on the agenda to ask for the custodian. We had a custodian fill in her notice last week. University Park project, plans are at about 90%, working on some easements. There's some little minor things they wanted to get finished with the plans before they send them off to KDHE to get approved. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll be starting the bid process for that. I don't really have any update on the Keats project. I'm sure Amanda's been keeping you up to date on that too. So we do have a meeting next couple of days for that. EMS headquarters is all but complete. I think they're just doing some minor touch-up stuff and finds things that weren't working right. Ceiling fan out in the shop. Staff and crews all moved in, so the design for the emergency management remodel is now complete. And waiting on BHS to come up with their final numbers or their to do the project, and I think they're working on subcontractors too. Peterson Ranch, overlay or pavement benefit district. The advertisement for bids went out on July 15th, or they will go out tomorrow. And then we'll open bids for that project on August 15th. We have sent out plans and specs to known contractors that we knew could bid on that project, so that's already started. Working on contracts with the consultants for our bridge and culvert projects for the sales tax. County, well, so the judicial center, I guess if we're calling services center, RFQs, we're doing interviews this week with consultants. So they're starting this afternoon, and we have one Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll have interviews. Staff is working on stormwater pollution prevention plan. And the water and sewer extension for the real fire we opened those bids on Thursday, and I think Evan will be back with recommendation with those. That is all I had on my list today, unless you have some comments or questions for me. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Next commissioner, you have Catherine Hensler at 9:15. Elizabeth, how are you? Good. Weekend's too short.
Sure.
Did not. Huh? Nebraska. Cool. They put on a good one.
Yeah, they kind of switched stuff around, so they don't have a burden on anymore, which.
But so then like everything conservative, so we sent large animals home on Saturday instead of Sunday, and so, but we got them these almost.
I love walking through the animals.
Yeah. They used to have them, they didn't release until Sunday, so everything day earlier. But yeah, we saw some good looking cows. Goats, sisters, you know, we drive, I'm talking about the goats, there's lots of four goats.
I like the chickens too.
Yeah, so we have.
All the different breeds of chickens.
Yeah. Our migrant French from high school, her sons show chickens, turkeys, geese, all this stuff, so I mean, I'm gonna take at least one repair to state, so they really did give us the details.
Mhm.
Pretty neat. And this year they incorporated, so in my town, there's a lot of Hispanic people, because we have yeah, it's still placing, yeah. But we haven't done a lot of incorporating, you know, in the last 40 years. This year they had a Mexican folklore dance that was free, and then they had a Mexican style rodeo on Sunday afternoon. I think it was $5, but it's full on 2.5-hour rodeo. My sister sent me all kinds of videos.
Bad, not bad.
I got some people over there because I've never been to a rodeo in Mexico. People fighting and rodeos in like Latin America. But they won't, that would be people, that's those kind of rodeos. In the United States, somebody gets hurt badly every time.
So much different styles.
Well, they did bullfighting, which I thought, it's literally just a man and bull, they like. There's no killing of any animal, but they like try to stay in front of them and they do these acrobatics to make it, you know, the bull's chasing the heck out of them and. It looked really cool.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
See that on TV, it's fabulous.
Yeah, but. I'm gonna let them see it, and, you know, I was gonna stay, but it's 30 and it's a 4-hour drive home, so.
Yeah.
So that's far. I needed to, you know, get a second of each. No, it was cold in his restaurant Saturday. That's what somebody said it was cold.
Yeah, it felt nice. It's so nice.
Right.
Especially when you're moving rock.
I thought you would appreciate it, Rich. I was working on the farm and I thought you didn't bother.
You did?
Turn my neck. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, the hayloft floor needs fixed.
Yeah. Well, we knew there were some holes, right? We didn't do that.
They covered it up, right?
Yeah, but the goat hang out there, so they covered it with straw and I didn't fall when it was the first floor, but I fell through and hit my head on the mat. Arms up here.
Did you holler, I found another hole?
Yeah, we found that. I don't know, but you, I found them. I was telling Brittany, there's a country song that says, something about when we're old and in the retirement home, you might have less scars than me, but I'll have better stories. And so I told my sister, I'm like, how many people you know, don't give the hayloft these days.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good story.
Not many nowadays.
Commissioners, I have a IT update. Now, this is working really well. I mean, you can now do everything in this room.
Oh, good.
So I'll put up signs like I had in the other room, that like any side conversation you have will be also. Then I said, when you're talking about the blocks, my grandson, so that, I mean, that's what everybody needs to know about it. And it's so it's picking up very well.
Oh, good.
Good, so that's cool. Yeah.
So can you make your move?
Yeah. Hayloft is big days.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's not some of the,
And that was a workout. Done that. Ready, Commissioner?
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Catherine Hensler, Director of the Riley County Historical Museum, coming to you this morning to just share our staff update. But before I jump into the report, I do want to introduce to you the Historical Society's new administrator, Ben Cole. He joined our team, or I should say the society's team, which is technically the museum's team because we work in collaboration with one another. On April 21st. And this is a position that is fully funded by the Riley County Historical Society, which is the private nonprofit organization. So this is not a county funded position. However, feel very blessed that last year when we were going through our strategic planning process, that the society did decide it was essential that they bring in someone to run their administration. Prior to that, that was something that I was managing. So balancing two jobs was a lot. And so we're very happy that Ben has joined the team. He's jumped right in with both feet, tried to learn about both organizations and the wild networking and idiosyncrasies of how our two organizations work together. So he's handling all of the administration for the board, which includes things from day-to-day operations, marketing, social media, contracts, and so on. So welcome, Ben. We're really glad to have you here. I wanted to formally introduce you to the county commissioners before you got too involved in your position.
Thanks. Word.
And so then just moving forward with outreach and attendance, June 2025, we had overall with all of our museums, programs and outreach, 532 individuals that we interacted with. I did end up not being able to present last month, but I did want to bring to your attention that we had a fabulous month in the month of May 2025. We hit an attendance record of 10,439. Part of that is outreach programs that we were able to do out in the community. With our volunteer hours, June of 2025 brought us some higher numbers as well, with almost 200 volunteer hours recorded. That includes our general volunteers, our interns, the Historical Society's board of directors, and our community service workers. And excuse me, I do want to highlight those community service workers. That is a project that we collaborate with the city and municipal court. We do provide hours for individuals who need to get those court community service hours. In the month of June, we had 2 of them, and they were able to get in 26 hours of work. That really helps us up from a building and grounds perspective. They're able to help us clean the site up, keep us looking tidy, sweep, wash windows, things of that nature. So the ones we had in June were just fabulous. They worked really well with us, and I did want to give them a public thanks for their assistance. I'm not going to go through all of the programs with outreach and education. We were busy as usual, introducing new programs and hosting things like our fireside chats that are monthly programs. But we did have again, a busy month. We did open a new temporary exhibit called Escape from Storage. We were really trying to come up with ideas on what to do with our temporary exhibit space rather than trying to change something and rewrite something every 3 to 4 months. We decided, we hear this a lot from our constituents, is what do you do with all of that stuff at the museum? If I donate something, will anyone ever get to see it? And so one of our answers to that question is to host an exhibit like this. So it's still going to change on a quarterly basis, but we're going to be highlighting things that have been in our collection for quite some time that just have not made it out. So it's kind of a little curio of curiosities. So I do invite you to come up to the museum and check that exhibit out. It's open all of the same hours that the museum is open. And as always, admission is always free. Concerning collections, we have lifted that collections moratorium, as you know, that lifted on May 1st. So we are actively collecting objects again. However, I will note we are really working to be more strategic on what's being accepted. And we have a formal process for donations now. Folks cannot just come in and drop things off at our door like they used to. So we have, our curators have conversations with them ahead of time. we discuss some of that collection, those collections criterias, and then we essentially vet the collections that are coming in. So in the month of June, 50 individual objects came in under 5 donors, and we were able to backlog process 2 items. Now, you'll notice in May of 2025, we deaccessioned 897 objects. Those are all books. As you know, we've been going through that cleaning of the library and archival space. It was determined through the collections committee that 897 books really did not fit our collections criteria. And so it was approved by the committee, then taken to the board, Historical Society board at the May meeting, and they did approve that deaccession. There's another large deaccession heading our direction. It will probably be discussed this month through the collections committee, and then it will be presented to the Historical Society board in September. And that moves me right into archives and libraries. Speaking of the cleanup and reorganization of the library, previously I reported an approximately 3,200 books in our collection. Now that we've gone through 3,445, we realized there were a lot more than we knew about. So we do believe it's closer to 4,200 books we had in our collection. And they're old books, but they are not criteria-based books. And so that is the space that we really chose to hit first as far as cleaning out. And if you have a chance, swing by the museum when we're open and take a look at this library. It has been significantly cleaned out. It has been made more accessible. The next step, now that things have been cleaned out, is to improve the shelving units and get really just a more usable layout and create finding aids. So then we can tell the community what we have in our collection and how it can be made available to them. So as far as library and archives use, this is the use of the public. We had 10 external research requests, 1 internal, and 12 appointments. So half of those were walk-in, half of those were made ahead of time. So 23 interactions in the month of June concerning Curator Farrens and the library and archives. Surprisingly, I have no report for building and grounds. I always hesitate to say that out loud because when I do, I get back to the museum and something breaks. But for now, May and June, we've done great with facilities. I also do want to credit John Ellerman's staff for their assistance this summer. They have helped us out with lighting needs, air conditioning, HVAC needs, and just the random everyday little maintenance things. So John, thank you for your support, and we really do appreciate your staff. Concerning our staff, we do have a couple new interns that started in June. Audrey Christ is a graduating senior of K-State's History Department. She has been assigned to support the Library and Archives Division, and second intern, Billy Klaus, has joined the team. She is actually a recent relocatee with Fort Riley. She's moved here just a few months ago with her active duty spouse. She has a background in museums, and she reached out to us looking for an internship. It's not credit-based, it is all volunteer, but she steps in with some great experience, and she's helping to support our clean out of temporary storage, which also has been a huge undertaking. So we welcome them both. We encourage them to get involved in their community and really, connect with the collections community. We are filled with our museum internships through the end of 2025. So we already have our fall 2025 interns mostly hired. They've been given a conditional offer. We just need to run background checks, and we're waiting to do that a little closer to their start time. We are, however, accepting applications for the spring 2026 semester. A real quick update on the Historical Society. Like I mentioned, they did hire their first administrative director, Dr. Ben Cole. The board of directors is planning to attend, a board retreat on Saturday, August 2nd. That's going to be provided by the K-State Extension Office. And they've also invited our curatorial and management museum staff. So we appreciate being part of that. The society is moving forward with a plan to clean out the Wolf Studio, and our museum staff will support that effort along with interns as they are available. At the same time, they are also requesting bids for the exterior restoration of the same property. The funding that was raised through Grow Green this year has been committed to that exterior restoration. And also just a reminder, that is a society site, that is not a county site, and so county money will not be going towards that effort. We will be stepping in to support from a collections standpoint, so our curators will be fully involved in that process. The society has also hired a summer intern from the K-State Museum Studies Certificate Program. Her name is Hannah Castaneda. She's assisting the society with creating social media content and helping us recreate the Riley County Schools exhibit, which has been up at the Rocky Ford Schoolhouse. This exhibit was originally produced by Doug Tippin and the staff of the museum, and our museum curators are overseeing this project and assisting her. As far as upcoming events, we have our regular events such as the Fireside Chats, which happen on the second Tuesday of each month. But we've also added a couple new programs. One of these is coming back from previous years. We will be hosting the guided walking tours for Historic City Park on July 18th. They start at 5:30. They're free and open to the public. They will start at the Pioneer Log Cabin, which is just behind the swimming pool in City Park. Excuse me. August 16th, we'll be co-hosting the Genealogy and History Fair. That'll be at Potter's Hall, 10 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Also free and open to the public. I do mention on here that we do still need some volunteers to assist us. So the museum will have a table, the society will have a table, our museum staff will be running the kids zone, and then we do need to assist with some volunteers for the welcome table. And then we have a couple Humanities Kansas presentations that we'll be hosting in the fall and in December. We'll send some more marketing out about that, but we are very pleased to have been selected to host those programs. And then October 11th, we'll be hosting a cemetery preservation workshop. That'll be at the Ogden Protestant Cemetery, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., free and open to the public. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Did your lighting all get updated?
Most of it. We are still working on the temporary and permanent storage, but I do believe Economy Electric has gotten a quote in.
So we'll leave this the agreement with the storage.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah. The gallery space looks great. They were able to update all of the fixtures and put in new LED lights. So that public space has been updated and great improvement. Yep.
Good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You pension for Alvin? Yes. Yeah. Yes, conference at 9:30. Thanks, sir. There you go. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Oh, cool. So Ben, where you from?
Originally from Malaysia,
Okay.
but I've been here, got married, raised out of church in 98, so I'm living in county now.
Good.
So, yeah, my wife's from here.
Good deal. Well, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yep.
All right, see you. Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. I give you. This is gonna make sure that it's, I gotta look at it and really think. Oh, yeah, so you got it. Yeah. That's worth listening or? Yeah, just.
Little car.
Well, yes, yeah, take care.
You can see my pool run. So you will raise the next minutes, yeah. Oh, I know that. I'm gonna tell you right, it's exactly how I have. It's the same word base, none of the.
Yes, I was saying.
All.
You're done. I'm gonna move you out already. You ready? Well, good morning again, John Ellerman, Public Works with a public notice about the road closure. Structural replacement project on West 69th Avenue is scheduled to begin Tuesday, July 22nd. Project is located approximately 30 feet north of Anderson Avenue. Traffic on Anderson will not be affected by this project. The intersection of 69th Avenue and Anderson will be closed to through traffic during construction. Closure will occur from Anderson Avenue north to the intersection of North 48th Street during the project. Project is expected to be completed by Thursday, July 24th, weather permitting. Apologize for any inconvenience and let everybody know, your neighbors know. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, Commissioner Amanda Webb and Benjamin Hill at 9:35.
So you can say. Yeah. Presentation.
Because that's what that's so easy to take care of. And then, yeah. Say. You'll just get in there, you know.
That was also attached on there, Amanda, to just scroll down through too.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to be able to click through it, but thank you.
How many days of college football, John?
41. Says 41.
That's,
Yep, that's 6 weeks.
that's
Actually, it's 40 today.
that's Iowa State.
Yeah. This week.
Yeah, I picked Fresno State to somebody, yeah, same night. I gotta open up that new stadium.
So I just want to make sure.
First game, a rather big one, if you're gonna be a player this year.
Oh, yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think the earliest line I saw was 3 points. Hey, State, basically.
Yeah.
It's all.
Okay.
But it's still 5 weeks out.
Wilson Derby is just, I guess that's a little.
Say what?
Home run derby.
Yeah.
One guy's got his high school coach pitching to him.
Too much that.
I forget, I heard it on the radio the other day.
It's not
I thought that was interesting.
Not uncommon.
It's just.
Yeah, I used to enjoy lunch those. I don't catch them very often.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe.
I watched for like 30 minutes. Especially now that it's from the million. It's right on this fast as they can.
MLB draft was over the weekend too. I didn't see him, but just kind of.
Boys got another one.
Makes me. Yeah. Yeah. Second base.
United States. So you haven't seen the good ones. Fix issues.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of those that can transition to like third base or second base. They don't necessarily have to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's too bad. Ready, commissioners?
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director, here with Ben Hamill, our Environmental Health Technician. Several months back, you folks had asked for basically a wastewater 101 presentation, and Ben has put that together, and we'll go through that for you. There'll be time for questions. Well, anytime you want to ask questions, or if you want to wait till the end, we'll have time for that. So I'll turn it over to Ben.
Good morning, Commissioners, and welcome to Wastewater 101. So,
Never I thought I'd be at this point.
yeah, welcome back to school. So why does it matter? Well, the first thing is there's pathogens in wastewater, bacteria, viruses, other nasty stuff, and they cause horrible diseases. Cholera, typhoid, these were devastating to early settlements out here. And so taking care of that wastewater is important. And, you know, our wells are more often in an aquifer than the shallow wells. So you're like, so why does it matter? Well, even still from this image, we see if we have some untreated wastewater and it starts to get into that rock and move sideways, it can still get to your well casing and head down there and contaminate that water. And then once it's down in an aquifer, the options to treat it become much more limited. So we really want to prevent that. And that also can be a danger with abandoned wells. There's still a pipeway basically for waste to get down into the aquifer. There's also a lot of nitrates in wastewater. Now that's more common with animal runoff that we see blue baby syndrome, but that nitrate, which plants can use and which, you know, us grownups, once we're past 6 months, you're pretty much safe. Your gut has developed, it can take care of that nitrate. But for young infants, that 0 to 6 months, if you make formula with the well water that's been contaminated with nitrates, it can lead to blue baby syndrome where that nitrate actually bonds onto the blood where the oxygen's supposed to go. And so the babies are literally turning blue from lack of oxygen. And we want to avoid that. Now, how does wastewater get treated? No matter what your system, it's all kind of working the same thing. There's anaerobic microbes that don't need any oxygen. And then there's aerobic microbes that do need oxygen. Now, everything, whether it's kind of a standard septic system, a lagoon, or even some of our advanced alternative septic systems, they're all using these two different methods. So at the top, we see what's the standard system. It first goes into the septic tank, anaerobic, there's not a lot of oxygen there. It starts to break down. Then after that, it goes out into the soil, and there's a lot of soil there. Soil is about 50% pore space, so there's lots of space for oxygen. There's lots of microbes that live in there, and the soil finishes that treatment, uses those pathogens get turned into food for the microbes. So what if we don't have enough soil then? Then we have to look at these advanced systems. So the next one there is one of the alternative systems. For Riley County, we have Elgin or AES are some of the approved systems. And so there's not enough soil there for us to fully treat it. And so what we do is we try to get more aerobic treatment going on in a sand bed that often have vents, some way to get extra oxygen onto that wastewater that will help break it down. Some of our older, what we'd call active alternative systems, would put like a blower motor onto that septic tank. And so that instead of just being the anaerobic no oxygen, now there's the anaerobic no oxygen and the aerobic oxygen breakdown happening with that blower motor on the septic tank. There's a lot of 90s, these were going in around the lake. And it's important though to have those annually inspected to make sure they're working, because there's not enough soil there to treat it. And if that blower breaks and then we stop getting that advanced treatment, then we're potentially having unfully treated wastewater getting into the soil. It's hitting whatever limiting layer. Then we also have kind of a mound system. The soil is so shallow, there's just not enough space. So they actually build up a mound. If you've been out at Peterson Ranch, a lot of the new development going on out there, they have mound Elgin systems. So the soil was so shallow, there wasn't enough space for the adequate treatment, so they built up some extra soil. And then finally, we have the lagoon. Now, when the water's sitting in the lagoon, because there's so much surface area and because you're supposed to keep trees away from it, the wind will blow, and just that wind blowing across it can get that extra aerobic breakdown going in, and then you get a little bit percolating coming out of the bottom, seeping into the ground. So we have a lot of different challenging soils in Riley County, and that's why we have so many different septic systems. So this first soil here on the left, it was looking really good for a lagoon until I got kind of below that knife. It went from red to green, and that green was evidence of a high water table. And so we don't want to contaminate that high water. And if you put a lagoon instead of the lagoon slowly seeping out into the soil, you'd have that water seeping into the lagoon. So it wouldn't get treated, possibly overflow the lagoon depending on how much water is seeping in. So they ended up having to do an advanced treatment system there. That image in the middle, that was a really good soil. Riley County has a high amount of clay generally in a lot of areas, so they could have gone with a standard septic system. They ended up going with a lagoon at this location just because the lagoon ended up being a little bit cheaper. Either option could have worked. Then that image at the right, we had 19 inches of soil before we hit solid bedrock on top of the hill, just kind of southeast of Manhattan. And so there we had to do a mounded Elgin system because there wasn't enough soil to properly treat that wastewater. So inside a septic tank, the inlet baffle, that's where it first comes in. You flush the toilet, it first comes in. That baffle is on there is to take all that momentum out of the water, so you're not churning up everything. We want the solids to settle out to the bottom. So that kind of puts a brake on everything going into the tank. It floats down to the bottom. A scum layer kind of forms on top. We've been doing more. We require now dual compartment septic tanks. Older systems were single compartment, and adding that other compartment just keeps more solids away from the lateral field. And if solids get into the lateral field, they can reduce the life. And we want that to last as long as possible because these can be very expensive things. I'll get into that later, but we want to get all the life we can out of this. So we have a dual compartment here. And then before it goes outlet baffle, we also have filters on those to, again, keep solids out of the lateral field and just provide yet another method to just kind of catch and keep it in the septic tank so it can be pumped out. Much easier to deal with than replacing a whole lateral field. So for what we call standard septic systems, we have two types. We've got kind of a rock and pipe on the left here. It's just a PVC pipe with holes drilled in the side over kind of a rock bed, and then there'll be some rock put on top of that in a 3-foot wide trench so that the septic can, the effluent after it's left the septic tank can go in there, infiltrate into the soil and get broken down. On the right, we have chambers. These aren't sitting on any rock, they're sitting directly on the soil, but there's a dome to kind of try to use that whole space. If you're going to have a lot of traffic over an area, a rock and pipe can be preferred, but really you don't want to be driving vehicles over your septic system because these chambers here, they can collapse. We've seen failures where, you know, there's this empty spot and it's really convenient. So we park the grain truck over it because that gets it out of the way, and all that weight just on there can collapse chambers and then limit the size of your lateral field and cause it to fail. Here we have got kind of a cross section of the lagoon. Ideally in a lagoon, we want 3 to 5 feet of water. That allows when it's functioning properly, they don't smell as much. It's when they get lower that you can get kind of smell. And when the water's lower, it's easier for cattails or trees to get established in the lagoon that will both kind of block air from flowing over the surface to get that aerobic treatment that we wanted. But also those roots will penetrate in, and we wanted a nice packed soil so the water stays there and gets treated. Those roots kind of pierce that and then have a way for the water to infiltrate quicker into the soil and not get fully treated. The other benefit to having that 5 feet of water in there is in winter, when it's really cold, your line's only 18 inches off the bottom. It protects it from freezing up. If you've only got 18 inches of water in there and your pipe's half sticking out, that end will freeze up. And then you've got to back up into your basement or your house or whatever. And that's not fun to deal with. So keeping water in these lagoons is important. Along with that, we have 2 feet of freeboard. And that 2 feet of freeboard, the volume that's empty there is greater than the volume of all the water below the 5 foot line. So I've only been here, 2 years, but I've never seen anyone worried about overflowing their lagoon. The worry has always been, how do I keep enough water into it? Especially because when we size our septic systems, it's based off how many bedrooms. So you had the whole family there, then the kids grew up, they left the house, and all of a sudden you've got 4 bedrooms, but only 2 people. It can be harder for them to use enough water to keep the lagoon full. And so we encourage people to possibly tie their gutters in, and so that you can capture extra rainwater to try to keep the lagoon full with some sort of method to be able to turn that off if it's a really wet May. But that can be an option, to keep your lagoon functioning and not have it smell. Then lastly, kind of our alternative systems. Like I said, these are in the challenging soils. Here we're on the side of a hill. We're limited for space. This is out by the lake. They put in some sort of system back in the 70s, but since 97, the states had guidelines for us to follow now for how to design systems. So we're going back into areas and having to put in a system that will meet those guidelines. Here, this is an Elgin system. So it's got a septic tank. Then this is the advanced treatment. And these here sticking up these pipes, they're not actually inspection ports like you would see on a standard field. They are open, they're vents. And so that's why they're curved down. The idea is to get extra oxygen into there so we can get more of that aerobic treatment before it gets to the soil. So that's what it was going in. And then the picture on the right, it's all buried. It's been blended into the landscape, and they put on a lot of erosion prevention, which was important. As you can see how steep that slope is. And we don't want any wastewater either kind of leaking out the side or the rain coming in and washing that out.
Yeah, so that's totally self-contained, that Elgin system there, it just
Yep.
kind of rotates around.
Yep, it functions really like a standard lateral field. It's just instead of, having it all be done by soil, it's these blocks are kind of put in place, and they've got this fabric on it that allows microbes just kind of a home to establish themselves. There's some firm plastic in there that creates big pore space to allow air to go through, and just facilitates the microbes that are actually going to break it down. And that concludes my presentation. So I'll take any questions now that you might have.
Cost-wise, what an Elgin system?
Cost-wise, that is a great question. So we had the LEPP grant. Now, one of the benefits of that, since they were coming to us to help these families below the poverty line get systems, we helped. It was a family of 5, I believe. It was a kind of a foster mother. She's got 5 bedrooms, so she needs a big system, lots of kids, limited income. Because of the space, they had to go with an Elgin system. Cause it was out by Sam Rogers. It cost $30,000 to get a new septic tank and a new Elgin system installed.
Yes.
That is a significant expense. I've also seen standard systems. Now that was for a 5-bedroom, so it probably comes down to a little more like 20,000 for a 3-bedroom. But even for like a standard septic system, again, with our LEPP grant, we've actually seen some quotes from installers and it was like $11,000 for a 3-bedroom with a standard system. So these are expensive and that's why, we're like, keep that filter on there, maximize the life of your expensive lateral field and just have your tank pumped much cheaper.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate the education.
Oh, you're welcome.
Commissioner Jacob Hansen and Pan.
Yeah, it is. There's, because I'll get into the first quarter of next year. It's gonna be the lines, and so I think, that's in 6,000. I just took the original set of numbers out to the fire, took the whatever that 25,000. And I was what equals. Yeah. Awesome. So those are. Right. So happy you said it, right? For the awesome environment. So I think it's totally. That also be getting one on. But that understands. I don't know how it is, without a little budget. I'm trying to they were doing price. I understand. Well, and I've got, okay, so for that reason. Both said they're gonna be on, I might just do one of them. And the text. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
So our CD fund. It's so tricky to do one, but that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's what they had on there, and then.
I have. Oh, but it is coming on to you, so it has to say, realize, like, building needs stuff.
Yeah. Why? Like my two bets.
That is.
It is.
Halfway to there. Think we're gonna go.
Yeah. It's still. It's
Yes.
Can't remember it. They give me a value, like very light copper or something. They did mine. Yeah. Wore off pretty fast. I thought it was all like jokes, and next thing I knew, woke up and they're gone. Three of them. I had to go to Mary Kirk last week. Also, then you can say. Yeah. Applesauce. Sure.
Yeah, it looks relatively successful board appearances. On here, I'll probably talk a little bit about that. Any projects.
Certainly. Okay, so it's the answer. So. That's enough. Well. That's gotta go with that. Yeah. Next call when you put the forward.
I'll be back there maybe in May here. Yes.
Thank you. I did not bring my cup with me, unfortunately.
Few people popping on Zoom here shortly.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What's that? What?
Over there, it should pop up here.
Okay.
So, great, so seeing just admit them.
All right, very good. Okay, thanks.
So basically have different student people on Zoom.
Okay.
But if there's anything to check out. Just one.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
All righty. Good morning, Commissioners. Jacob Hansen, interim Riley County Counselor. First to talk about, in our, my administrative session, of course, is the pending county projects. These are not necessarily growing in number, but perhaps in complexity. We did have a large, issue, at least be decided, last week on Friday. I know I emailed you all about it, but just to talk about it in public is that there was the Prairie Wood v. the Board of County Commissioners Riley County case that was up on the appellate court. And so the appellate court issued their opinion on Friday. They found in favor of us in one issue and then found against us in another. However, the issue that they did find us for in our favor was determinative in the entire issue. Significantly, this case is also considered a published opinion rather than an unpublished. And just to clarify what that means is that this case will be used as precedent in other cases and in Kansas law in general. So it's a relatively big deal for that to be decided and to be decided in that manner. Before I move on to a couple other things, did any of you guys have questions as far as it relates to Prairie Wood? All right, very good. Moving on, speaking of other court matters, of course, you guys are very well aware of the nuisance abatement cases that we have going on. Those continue, I think, to progress in a good manner. I've been speaking with many of the defendants in that case and their counsel. I think we have come to a good conclusion. And right now, the plan is that I'll be providing diversion agreements to them within the next week or 2 weeks. Which will allow them time to kind of do a little bit back and forth, but we're going to have a diversion agreement in place here real soon for quite a lot of these. And that's going to be one of my major focuses within the next week or two is getting those done. So that way we can have a lot of those properties cleaned up to the county standard. So I think we're going to see some real progress and looking forward to that. Moving on to other issues. Of course, we have Keats and the Keats easements. We're still working on that matter. I'm still waiting to get the easement descriptions from BG Consultants. I think they've run into a couple of things that they need to reevaluate when it comes to the easement descriptions themselves. But as soon as we get the easement descriptions, we'll have the templates for the agreements ready to go and sent out to everybody, and then do what we need to do in order to get those signed and in place. Those are really the major issues that at least my office is handling and that I can discuss, of course, openly. Any questions, concerns, any particular project you're curious about? All right. In that case, we'll move on to my second item, which is the contract and grant application for the Community Talent Recruitment Program. And we have a couple individuals. They're going to be joining us here from Make My Move. And I have a Peter Lazars. I'm not sure if there was supposed to be an additional person, or at least if they're
I
in the
know
room.
Luke's traveling. He was going to try to stop.
Okay. Well, before I turn it over to Peter here, let me just kind of go over the commission agenda report that I prepared. The document for the most part speaks for itself. The one thing I want to make sure that is clear when we're signing this contract, of course, is that it's contingent upon us getting approval of the grant. And I've attached that grant application for you guys to review. That's the first item. Is the grant application itself. Now, Make My Move is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting as far as that goes. We're going to add in a couple parts, but we're working with them in order to get that done. But the point, of course, bringing up the grant application, is if we are not chosen, the contract, we're not obligated for any sort of money after the fact. If we don't get it, that's the end of it. So the only thing that, from my understanding, is that we're going to be obligated to pay, and I noted this in my car, was, of course, approximately $30,000 per year. It'd be $30,000 per year because we have the total amount per year from Make My Move is listed in their contract at around $118,855, and that's per year. So we take that times two, and then we subtract the total amount of grant application that we get, which would be 187,000, and that puts us roughly around 50,000. The one thing to be aware of is that this number here looks like that's going to potentially move around. Which is why I think we're trying to anticipate that it will be around 30,000. That'll have to come out of the Economic Development Fund instead of 25. Of course, with this contract as well is that I have asked that we add in our standard contractual provisions attachment. I realize that it wasn't included in the online agenda. However, you guys should have got a physical copy of that. Just our standard contractual terms, nothing too terribly interesting in there. We do, of course, we typically do a 30-day termination for convenience, but in this case, we're doing a 90-day termination for convenience. So yeah, that's been a pretty common term that usually gets adjusted in contract negotiation. So with that, if you don't have any questions for myself, I'm happy to turn it over to Peter here. Also be advised that this is our first time that we're having somebody come and speak via Zoom here at the Tipperary Chamber. So depending on how things go, we might need to hold off, but any other questions for me?
No.
I did have something, we had talked originally about 30,000 a year.
Right.
And this contract is a lot more than that. It's like 118,000.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, it says the Riley County was the boundaries, but it doesn't say rural. It would include Manhattan, which I was under the impression this was just for our rural communities, not for Manhattan. But it does not state that it says the boundaries of Riley County.
Right. I can at least speak as far as the contract's concerned. It would include Manhattan, but it also, intends to include other communities in Riley County, but that of course does include part of Manhattan. For the
They
contract.
have to do it by county, but our goal would be to obviously get them moved into rural sections of the
Well, I
county.
would like to state that,
They can,
the
grant itself can.
and the amount, it doesn't say if we terminate the contract that we would get back the 118,855.
We'd only be able to hook for 60 something, the rest of it is state funds. It's an 80-20 split.
Payment. Initially $66,105 on August 15th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's state funds. We're using the state grant funds if we get them, right, to start.
Right.
If we don't get the grant, then we.
Yeah, if we don't get the grant, then we're not obligated for anything.
There's several different moving parts to it.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And, if it would include Manhattan, I would expect. We would expect the chamber to do some of the creation to take care of it, 55,000.
I haven't had large discussions with anybody because I don't know, one, if they're going to do that, if we are, if we're gonna get the grant. So those conversations I'll have to come secondary. But they have offered. I don't know what amount just yet, but it kind of depends on where everybody leans.
All right.
Like I said, it could be anywhere from maybe 5 to 7 grand is what I'm thinking. So we initially discussed, it could be a little more, could be a little less depending on where everybody lands. But Ogden was looking heavily at this and I'll have to get into a deeper dive with Angela. Once I told her I'd wait till after we had contracts in place before we made that move. So.
Okay. In that event, I will turn it over to Peter and Ben. Again, you guys just anticipate that we might come into some technical difficulties, but if you guys could go ahead and try to speak here so I can make sure we can all hear you, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having us. Happy
Sound
to answer
good.
any questions. Can you hear us?
Yep, you're good to go.
Yeah, I would have make sure somebody from there was on here in case there were questions and some of the logistical things and they can explain a little better than I can.
Are there any specific questions or?
Well, Ben, I think if you could maybe discuss a little bit, I know Commissioner Foki mentioned, she's a little bit worried about having this include all of Manhattan. Can you maybe speak a little bit to how we're going to make sure this gets spread out to the county?
Yeah, from a eligibility perspective, we would have applicants would be eligible to move anywhere. From a marketing and merchandisation perspective, I believe in the presentation we provided last time we spoke, there were sort of some mock-ups that showed how we would highlight and individualize the all municipalities within the county's region. And that would also enable those individual municipalities to provide, some sort of specialty offerings or anything that they can do to sort of, distinguish themselves from the group. And then what normally happens, what transpires is, we're going to generate a list of applicants that are interested in the area. And ultimately, we can show you tons of applicants, but folks will come in, obviously attracted to the amenities of Manhattan, but oftentimes they're looking for, space or rural areas. And what we'll need to do is get them connected to those communities. And obviously, this is a function of moving. So, housing and where folks want to live and what kind of housing, if folks want a 5-acre lot, they're not going to find that in the city. And so what we do is we connect folks to those. And what we normally see in programs that are county-wide or regional-wide are you get a vast variety of folks with a diverse interest in where they want to ultimately move. Some people want a heavily urban area and they want to live in an apartment. Other people want some space, but they also want to have close proximity to, the amenities that an urban area provides. So we're going to get a vast array of applicants. And the nice thing is with the county-wide program, we'll be able to, provide them choice and optionality.
Well, and all of our communities, excuse me, in the county up north are all within, 30 minutes from Manhattan, which, makes it, probably a lot more favorable to people from other areas. Because
yep, makes it very attractive.
Elsewhere, they're used to driving to get to work, but it does state in your contract something about mainly remote work.
I'm sorry, you cut out just a little bit. Is it in the contract? Does it say what?
About remote work?
Yeah, so from an eligibility perspective, we will, it just folks from outside of Kansas. There is a household income stipulation. I believe it's $55,000 or greater. But we'll be both attracting folks that will bring their jobs. So remote workers, folks that actually will come and relocate and have a job with them and be employed. And then also the ability to recruit and bring people that will be looking for jobs. So job takers. So they don't have to be remote. Folks that find interest in the region but need to find a job. Then one of what things we'll do and work with both the municipalities, you as the county, and also hopefully you can connect us with some employers, is connect those people to job boards and opportunities that exist within the community and help them find and connect. And if they ultimately do, then they would be eligible and they make that move and take the job and show proof of employment. They would be eligible to be considered as one of those movers. So we'll be both remote workers and traditional workforce.
Good high starting wage too, which at a good high starting wage, you said at least 55,000. So kind of it's above and beyond the median that's already established here, which is another benefit.
Is that an individual income or family? 55,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was a little muffled, but the question is on the income criteria.
Yeah, it said 55,000. Is that an individual or is that the
It's a house. That is, I believe the legislation is a household income. We've confirmed that, correct, Peter?
Correct. Yes.
So that would be household income. The average income of the households that we move across our platform, I believe, is around 120,000. Inside the state of Kansas, I think it's just north of 100,000 for the handful of programs where we move folks, to give you context.
What is your success rate of other programs you have done and your success rate in different areas?
Well, we've definitely had failures, and I would say the majority of the time we hit our mover targets and numbers, in the sense of, with these programs working with the states and grants, we have a high success rate. I would say above 85%. There have been instances where we haven't been able to meet that total household mover target within the time frame. But oftentimes what we'll do is we'll continue to work at recruiting those. They'll be in the pipeline and maybe we need to extend it. There have been a couple times where, candidly, there was a difference in opinion in the sense of the mover goal or the goal and objections changed, and there was just an agreement to cease working with communities, and communities, we all just came to a mutual agreement. So it's not like we always hit the number, but for the most part, I would say over 85%. We've always, on even our programs, if you look at the pro forma, which are very conservative, if you think about just the value, the economic value that we bring within one family, normally we're showing obviously a positive ROI on all of our programs.
And said like the goal is 20 households within a 12-month period. If we don't get that goal, we still pay the full amount.
Yeah, so the there's a couple of things. One, it's 20 households is the target, and that's moved or accepted to move. So what you'll have is, it's a process. People come in, they apply, we help qualify them, make sure that they're eligible. So those that aren't eligible, we'll communicate with them. But those that are eligible, then essentially they go through some qualifying steps. We verify who they are. We get documentation, those sort of things. Those are both things that we do to document all this, but also they're qualifying events. Every time that they give us documentation, tax returns, information from employers if they're a remote worker that attest to who they are and what they make, those sort of things, they're truly qualifying that they're really interested in moving. And then ultimately we have a decision. You guys didn't extend an offer. They'll either accept that offer. If they do, there's a signed MOU, and that MOU essentially says, hey, they're intending to move within the next 90 days. And that's where we really start to get into helping them get connected with realtors, answering any questions, whether that be about the school system, healthcare, whatever it may be. And normally, so that at that point, that's an accepted applicant. And so it's 20 movers that have moved and accepted. And obviously we're at 90% of the time we move those people. Sometimes maybe something comes up, family member gets sick and changes their planning. But so it's 20 movers moved and accepted. And then obviously from the pro forma perspective and the financing, there is a large portion of that finances allocated, or the budgeting is allocated to paying those folks. Our recommendation is that those payments, any of that hard stipend that's budgeted, doesn't all come out at once. You would pay an installment once a family has actually physically moved, right? So if it's a $5,000, which I believe is what we kind of put in the pro forma, $5,000 moving relocation stipend, we would recommend you pay $2,500 sort of upfront, and then the remaining $2,500 would be in year 2. So you have that family for 2 years at a minimum. So from a total payout, if at the end of the 12-month recruitment cycle, if we haven't paid those folks, you wouldn't have paid all out. You would have paid us for our services and the work and the marketing that we do, but you wouldn't pay the whole number if that's the answer, or if that's the question ultimately.
The 5,000 that's paid to move, is that an additional to the 30 per year?
That's I'm not sure what you guys have up on the screen, but Peter, I unfortunately don't have the pro forma, but could you walk them through the numbers?
No, but you know, the incentive amount is part of the total program cost that will be covered in the grant application. So it's not additional. That's part of the grant application is the incentive cost.
Yeah, the total cost includes the grant, the incentive dollars paid to the families that we relocate, those 20 households.
So the 30,000 per year for 2 years includes that? Is that what I'm hearing? Includes all those incentives?
Well, the 30,000, if I may, the $30,000 is just the Riley County's obligation. Whether or not that exact money that we're paying goes exactly to that purpose, I think is a different matter. But as far as our obligation goes, that's just our contribution to the pot.
That's our 20% out of the 100. So
That's correct.
We're covering 20, the total amount, that's included in the total amount.
It's 5,000 times 20, that's 100,000, so that's most of the money.
Yeah, a large percentage of this is going to those families we're relocating, correct?
That's 2 years, so.
It's 100,000.
Well, we don't want, they pay part of that 100,000, right?
Yeah, they pay. So the grant funding is a total of, or at least the minimum total of around 187,000. Now, this contract obligation that it has is listed around 118,000, and that would be per year. So of course, times that by 2. And then you would take the grant funding out of that, which is 187. That would relieve or would show the remaining obligation that the county would have to contribute to that pot. Am I making sense?
For the commissioner clear on it?
It just seems like a lot of money. I don't. Better with numbers,
Just to try to clarify, so at the end of the day, Riley County's fiscal obligation from our coffers to you is, and this program's 30,000 in total.
Yeah, it's not to us, but it's not to us for the program.
Is the grant fund. So our only fiscal obligation is the 30,000. If we get a banner
Per year.
right, per year.
Well, what it's really, yeah, it's one time. I think we have the contract for the work for us would only be for 12 months. We would anticipate moving those 20 families in 12 months. The grant, the state's grants are they allocated and budgeted 1.5 million each. So 3 million total in state appropriations, 1.5 in fiscal year 26 and 1.5 in fiscal year 27. Obviously, if we were successful, and this is something you'd want to continue to do, we would need to go and get another grant award. But for this grant dollars, which I believe from the states, what we're going to go and apply on your behalf, you have the numbers there, but it would require a commitment, one-time commitment from the county of 30,000 to execute this program. And how the grant dollars would work would be if we're successful at the application and Riley County is awarded that, the grant dollars, my apologies, I'm traveling, I don't have the exact number on there, but half of that would be deposited into your account. So the payment to us would be utilizing state funds. And then when we hit the halfway point, which would be 10 households, you would get the remaining portion of your state grant dollars. So again, to get those 10 households, if we did settle on a $5,000 relocation stipend, we're only paying half of that, which is $25,000. So 10 households at $5,000 is $50,000. We only pay half, so $25,000. And then essentially you would get your second tranche of state grant dollars deposited into your account, which we would obviously utilize to continue on the program marketing and relocation of these folks. So the commitment of your 30 is kind of being levered to get the state dollars to work this. And then obviously there's an obligation. We're going to move those 20 families. And like I said, we'd be paying them upfront and then the remaining balance in year 2.
So what happens if, job comes from a company who's willing to pay those relocation fees? Or is that not even in the equation?
That absolutely is something that we would recommend. Like, so when we work with our community partners, employers are part of the community. We very much recommend engagement with those folks. And sometimes, and oftentimes there will be some sort of reciprocation or a rebate, or you'll have employers that will participate, pay in. It depends. Sometimes if the chamber is one of the partners that's doing that, they see the benefit for their membership base. So that's what justifies their investment into making sure that the program is successful. So whether that be a reimbursement of an expense or just an add-on that supplements the attractiveness of it. So it essentially, there's a lot of ways that we organize and work with that, but we very much would recommend, yes, absolutely. If there's employers that already have, this is the thing. If there are employers already that have sign-on bonuses and are doing things, have financial incentives to try to attract workers that they're in desperate need of, but no one knows about that, by putting your community and those employers in a position to get in front of people that are actively looking for a new community and potentially a new job, it enables us to highlight and market those incentives across the community, coupled with the attractiveness of a community, which is how we generate those people's interest. And so absolutely, we would want to make sure any employers out there, any programs that are in existing status, that we get those up and out there. If we're successful at landing those, then the question is, to us, that's sort of an internal local question. How do you whether extract some financial benefits from that, or just say, hey, here we are helping out our employer base. But there's a lot of ways that communities do that and find ways to take value from that.
A lot of the confusion, as I can understand why, because we're getting bits and pieces, and it's been just rather recently, is the financial aspects and obligation on this. Would it help the board if Brittany worked with Jacob on this and presented a clear view of who's paying what and our total obligation? Would that help the board?
Deadline's tomorrow on that.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was Thursday. Okay, I thought it was Thursday.
So is that a grant deadline? Is that the state grant deadline? Is that?
Or actually, I think the state
I thought the state deadline was, the 18th of Friday. That was my understanding.
It's Friday.
For the grant
Yeah, I thought we
application.
had one more meeting available.
I don't think that, to my knowledge, I don't believe there's a stated deadline. From communications we've had, and I'd recommend, by all means, we'd be happy to call them again. But I do believe there's continued application interest that will probably exceed the $1.5 million. And I know that the treasurer's office has stated, at least to us, that they're eager to do the review of applicants throughout the month of July and hope to have an announcement either at the end of July or early August to get those funds actively working and recruiting folks, as soon as possible. So I don't know if there's a stated deadline. So I think there's some time, but I do know that they want to sort of get these dollars out working in early August, late July.
I'd be more comfortable if we want to get some.
Right now, that's favor.
So the board okay with Brittany working with Jacob and make my move people to clarify some numbers?
Yeah.
And I want to be sure I'm clear, Ben or Peter, that there's not necessarily a deadline where we have to have you an answer by this Thursday. And could you give us a clear, when you need an answer by?
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to the treasurer's office, Kathy, the point of contact that they have there, to clarify how much time we have.
I just want the board to be clear on it, and decision they want to make, an understanding of it.
Now, is this money, this grant money coming from Kansas, or is it flowing through from the federal government?
It's coming from Kansas. It was allocated in this year's budget. Actually came from the Department of Commerce, but they decided to put it in the Treasury for administration. It's for political purposes, but.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's one-time funds. My sense is it might have been one-time funds that were utilized for this, but it was just it was a direct appropriations for this purpose to be administered through the treasurer's office.
We have our
And that was it, via the Kansas legislature and inside the budget.
We have our grant consultant, we have Bryant's commissioners, we can also take clarification too.
We can need some.
So in that case, if we have consensus from the board for myself to work with Brittany, of course, and we'll represent this as soon as we can. And we'll bring this back up again. So we don't need any official decision from the board.
The director. They already said that.
Okay, just
Yeah.
being clear. Thanks.
Ben, Peter, do you guys have anything else for the board?
Nope. What I think, if I understood the takeaway here, is we'll get clarification with respect to the treasurer's timeline here, and report back. And then it sounds like someone will reach out to us to maybe schedule a sidebar conversation on the financing and how the money flows and all that.
Yes, I will be in touch.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Then nothing on our end. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer. Here to present an updated worksheet. So with the approval of the new position in IT, it did lower COLA just a little bit by $783. So that number up top changed. That's why I highlighted it. And then we also had some other changes. You guys had directed us to make some, just kind of finalize the budget basically, with all of the changes. And so we had departments review one more time based on that information, or that direction from last week. So appraiser reduced by $19,525. Noxious weed, this is the reduction that he had from your guys' conversations about that state statute and their chemicals. The health department, it was changed to $2,003,903. New position for IT, it reduced their personnel budget by that $29,000, and of course COLA. And I did obviously change economic development with the thought of the Make My Move contract being approved for 2025. Did you want to start with positions today and have departments go through those?
Positions.
Oh, if you want to go through new positions.
I don't need an update on them, if that's what you mean. We've gone through them once. I've reached a decision on those. I don't want to move forward with any of them.
Okay.
In terms of
I
the
just
budget.
had some general comments if I could on the board on the budget.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
Morning, Commissioner Rich Barger, Riley County Clerk. Start out, Mr. Olds came in and had talked about COLA in particular. And so I think it's good to have an answer for that. He had mentioned the city's doing a 0% COLA. I don't think it's any secret the city's gone through some tough financial times for quite a while, and they did a pay study in the not too distant past. And so there are, in their current budget session is challenging for them. So I think there's the reason for how they've made their decision, because previously the city, RCPD and county all did follow the same, where we derived at our 2.7% COLA as we have in our policies. But because financial things dictate what commissioners want to do is why they've made that decision. Have to remember both of these organizations are different public entities that they know what they need. RCP knows what they need. The county commissioners are designated, know what we need. Ours is per following policy. The 2.4 for RCPD, RCPD did hire a whole new division on board. ACOs. Two of the three of you got to vote on that and appreciate your vote. But at the end, we do have to pay for that. And so I'd ask the board to at least consider whatever further reductions you're going to do, take that into account. There's no reason essential county services should suffer the consequences of what an outside organization has dictated you do. You guys do, as Gary pointed out, have a tremendous responsibility. So that's the answer, Gary, to why those things have happened. It's good to have different eyes look at the budget. And I went through earlier and said, kind of how we got here. We started out 1.69 million less in revenues. Currently, we're at $472,000 increase in the 3 Cs for the county departments. That is not very high. That's just 3 Cs, commissioners. That does not include the personnel increases, which the step is in there. Also, we're at a $15,000 decrease in the appropriations area. But remember, that's because of a significant decrease in animal shelter. But yet, we've also approved a $10,000 increase in Be Able for an outside organization that's not required. RCPD's increase, $472,000 increase. You don't have a vote on it here, commissioners. We're statutorily obligated to fund that. So that's the part I'm talking about. Don't hold that against for that. Right now, we just sit at a $792,000 reduction in revenues. That don't sound too bad, but remember, we started out 1.7 million almost behind. We got a quick million because we changed the policy decision in moving CIP interest to the general fund. That's a one-time change, commissioners. It'll happen throughout as long as we continue the same policy, but that's a significant increase to make your numbers look a lot better. That helps alleviate that 2 mil increase in revenues you would need to make up that $1.7 million. Like I said, we do have the appropriations with the addition of the new one. Just ask the commissioners to consider this. Where you are at right now is we're at 39.891. The commissioners know the last time we were at that low of a mill levy? 2018, 38.886. So I know the commissioners and taxpayers and everyone doesn't like tax increases, but unfortunately, Gary or anyone else that's listening, we buy our supplies from the same places that every other company does in town, and every other company is complaining about the cost increases of supplies and materials. And so that's just kind of the dilemma we're in. You guys are elected to make the decisions on where the budget needs to end up. I would not use, try to be as kind on R&R as possible, a fabricated system to commissioners bring it up all the time. We want to stay at R&R. We want to stay at R&R. We need to be close to R&R. That system really means nothing, commissioners, budgetarily. It's a fabricated system for the state legislature. Now, it does help identify keeping taxes at the same rate as the previous year. But if you continue to do that, commissioners, you will continue to have to reduce services at some point in time throughout all departments and decimate your CIP program. Because we can make this mill levy darn near as low as you want if we decimate the CIP where we're at. But remember, the commissioners asked us to get the CIP where it's at so you can start doing these renovations. And doing it that way is much cheaper than going out for a loan. So just ask the board to consider all of this. Any questions? Thank you.
Well, that's why I wouldn't. We're gonna go by position by position. My understanding, I think we gotta do one by one.
Well, I mean,
I can vote.
yeah, but all I'm trying to say is we've been presented with what they are already. Do we have to go through it again? We can discuss them.
Because one of them's brand new.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to see if we could start out maybe just and talk about the appraisers. And if you're okay to skip around. So the appraisers, the reason that I think maybe this could be started and maybe a simpler discussion is this really is not a creation of new positions. This falls in our expanded positions. They would change position. Is Anna here? Yeah. And I mean, if it's okay with Greg, maybe she can just tell you, but they are going to change responsibilities because of the changes that have happened at the state level with personal property. They've actually already been supporting all of the appraisers. And so this division being called personal property is not really an accurate division for what Riley County needs. The other point you can see for yourselves, it's actually a reduction in their budget. So I think it's maybe a unique situation.
Kind of been talking about it for the last year and a half, just trying to prepare you guys for the change as well as staff. We've already started making those changes and we just updated the position descriptions to be reflective of their duties and their responsibilities as they have changed. So I'm just here for questions as you may have as it pertains to that.
You're not reducing, it's just reducing. Replacement positions, nobody that's working is getting these cuts, right?
There's not a cut to any of the current staffs.
Positions vacant, and this is a refill.
There are not currently vacant positions either. This is just updating their position titles. Like as of right now, they're at different levels. So we've updated education requirements to be inclusive of additional education that it's going to require to support those residential teams, allowing them to help make some of those appraisal related decisions and assist in those areas because the residential team's burden has increased substantially over the last several years. And so this was shifting some responsibilities onto the front end staff, which have had a personal property title for decades, giving them that responsibility, that workload. And so this is updated. The class and coursework has all been updated as well to be reflective of that. And so
I think Greg's point is how are we getting a reduction? And it changes the career.
Not had somebody salary, how you say.
It's changing the career pathing. So this is actually bringing the grade lower. And so when we look forward to the promotional next steps, the appropriate rates change. And so we have those budgeted in as people are going to promote to the next levels, and that would change. Yeah.
It's budgeted for new steps. Basically,
it is.
My understanding, they're budgeted for new steps.
That is correct.
It's not.
Yeah.
Because it's a higher qualifications, they don't get their students.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's going to change. It's going to, yeah. And so it really isn't a massive change to their department, and it's not a massive change to their future budgets. It actually changes the grade. So there's some changes there, but yeah, they will have to promote differently in this next year and in the coming years.
The appraisal 3 position for personal property historically had supervisory duties. So we've done a lot of realigning over the years, the last 2 years, and there's no longer supervisory duties associated with that appraiser 3, which is why you're seeing the reduction overall. And so that was.
There'll still be a 3, but it will not be that grade.
Yes, that's why there's the reduction.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that. I know there's so many nuances with positions that it's not always obvious just with the numbers. And so I guess on those merits, I would ask if the commissioners would consider that position change maybe separately from the whole, and if we could go through the other positions as well.
You can just consensus at least. Consensus is fine on each one of them.
Okay. Thank you. We have problem reduction.
So the board agreed with the county appraiser proposed staffing request changes.
And then what is your preference, Greg? Would you like to go in order here? I know you mentioned the new position. Would you like to hit that one or?
I don't know.
I mean, it might be just as easy to just go in order that we have them listed if that's okay with you. I mean, we'll definitely need to talk about that new position because we'll have to explain to you what we're doing there. Yeah, do you want to just jump to that one?
Yeah, what's done. Yeah, Mike, that's one,
Yeah.
it's basically it's a whole new proposal. Yeah.
It is, and, so yeah, Diane's here, I was like getting my eyes. So this is something Diane mentioned to you at the last, commission meeting that she and Jacob were going to meet with HR. We met on Tuesday, and that was kind of the first time we started discussing this. It's my understanding that this change is made, based on an employee's scheduling, but I really would appreciate Diane kind of talking through the proposal, or is it Jacob? Okay. Sure.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have an excellent nurse who will be moving out of state here imminently. However, she will be returning each fall and winter to care for family. So that kind of puts us in a unique position where we'd love to retain her, but just given the seasonality of her residency in Manhattan, we started to take a look and see what that might look like for us. And as you look at our seasonal patient volume, you can see a pretty notable spike there in October, kind of the months leading up to October and then the preceding months. So we had initially made a pitch to have a 6-month paid seasonal RN position. It aligns well with her schedule as well as the seasonality of our surges that we're seeing. So I don't know if that is budgeted for 6 months, but that was the pitch that we had made, was for a 6-month position specifically.
Yeah, so they talked to me about 5-month position. We looked at the numbers. I think this is Diane mentioned in the budget meeting, 4-month position. So this number reflects a 4-month seasonal position. It would be adjusted, of course, if you wanted to do 6 or more.
Is this something that, if this person's family situation changes, she won't be here and is this something that could be rehired for this period of time, still cover what you need?
Absolutely. So the question will always be with kind of what's been termed the gigification of nursing or gig working. That has become more of a common practice, but as that becomes a more common practice, that means more competition for those seasonal workers. So we would have to make sure that our pay rates are competitive with those that we would also be seeing kind of in the neighborhood. But yeah, that's absolutely common. We're seeing more and more gig work in nursing, and that's not just in public health. That would be in healthcare as a whole.
The other months of the year that are lower, they would be covered by other employees.
We still would have 3 full-time RNs on staff. This would just be our 4th RN would then become a seasonal position. So it's not like we're removing the majority of our nursing. It's just we're reducing one of our nursing positions to a seasonal position, with still 3 full-time remaining just in the public health clinic.
I see this has been discussed with the person that's leaving. That
yes,
is what she would expect for 4 months for. Is that competitive? I would say to get to know the nurses move around a lot right now. Is that competitive? If she didn't, if this student she didn't come back, we'd be able to hire someone else for 4 months at that rate?
I have seen that number before. However, oftentimes there are additional benefits that come along with that. I think it's very close. There might be a slight, you might have to have some negotiation, but I think that's a really good ballpark.
Because like I say, I know that the except there are, there's some just like move around at different places. A friend of ours that their daughter had a 6-month job in Lincoln, so she went, oh, and they live on the East Coast. She came out to Lincoln.
And I would just, I guess, talk a little bit more about that pay rate. So this is the average for Manhattan, Kansas per salary.com, which is what we use a lot of times for our reference of salary studies. And the current position as full-time is about $39. It's got some change on it. But the thing is, our positions we know are not necessarily straight dollar per hour competitive with private sector. What we offer is not only our full-time benefits, but we offer 8 to 5 schedule, Monday through Friday-ish. I mean, I think we change, we do the evening on Thursday, but this schedule, it doesn't include overnights, doesn't include weekends, doesn't include, on call. That's where we are able to attract our full-time folks. So, I don't know how well will play or won't play necessarily in the contract or the seasonal area. I don't know. I know when we hire nurses, we hear a lot, like we are a lower per hour, but we have the lifestyle, the life balance. So where we're at on the seasonal, I don't know how they'll play.
The last few have gone, well, I can speak to the last couple, and both of ours took pay increases to come here. I can't say that's going to always be the case, but at least currently, both of our most recent hires ended up being more money coming here. That's excluding benefits. That said, because it's a seasonal position, there are some challenges, including the lack of benefits, where we may have to scale that pay more. But even if you were to hold compensation the same, if you were to take the exact same spin that you would spend on benefits for a potential full-time employee and then just add it to straight base pay, I think you're highly competitive, even if you're controlling compensation in that manner.
And I do think it's right to worry a little bit about the seasonal. We have other positions that, I mean, this is more, it's different because professional nurses do contract, but we have a lot of issues trying to fill some of our other seasonal positions. So I don't know for sure how it will go.
You're right, I hadn't thought about, but yeah, having 8 to 5.
Yeah, that's our big draw.
It's a great quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't.
The overnight shifts.
Right. Right. Well, and not that they don't have difficult cases, but they have differently difficult cases than like the ER or the OR.
Overnight ER, then Kansas City, it's a well-paid position.
Yeah, like for a reason, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have my concerns just trying to move seasonal and whether or not we have the right staffing to cover all of our clients' needs. And if we need to make referrals to the private, all of those things. But outside of that, I think you need to consider whether, this number is 4 months, and that's based on the numbers that you have as far as the fluctuations. We've talked about 4, 5, and 6 months. And our current incumbent is available through 6 months.
6 months was the initial plan. And we understand that position permanence is lacking here. But every year that we're able to do this, we'd be saving local taxpayers around $50,000. Again, if you were to take your anticipated compensation, including benefits, and move it to base pay, you'd still be saving local taxpayers about $50,000 a year for every year we're able to make this work. And since our margin, our mission are aligning right now, where we've got an excellent nurse who we'd love to retain, I think it just makes sense for us. I can't guarantee that this will still be a good game plan 10 years from now, but at least in the here and now, as we have some challenges with our budget, I think this makes perfect sense.
Well, it makes sense to me, but I am kind of that. Does that amount include benefits then for this person for a full year, or are we not doing benefits and
seasonal?
They can buy into benefits from some, nursing association or something,
They'd be responsible for finding that on their own.
but it doesn't have benefits in it.
No, seasonal, none of our seasonal.
None of the
employees get
seasonal
benefits.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and we have to keep those under 1,000 hours. This is well under that.
So even if they spend 6 months, you keep it under.
Yeah, it's got to stay under 1,000 hours is our limit for benefits.
It's
But,
1,000, it wouldn't be quite 6 months, you have.
yeah, but we could adjust it up to that point.
And it's my general discussion, like I said, this is a new one, which, in looking over these things the last how many weeks we've had, I did think the billing clerk, like she said, that we could increase, there's potential to increase our funding by that, because we're doing better funding. And my thoughts at the time have been, well, they could cut 72,000 out of somewhere else. We could add that back in. And I didn't ever say that to anybody, but it seems like that's for itself. But I would, just making me more comfortable, I'd add the 15 back at the end of the season, or just give them another month of whatever it takes.
Okay.
Just make the whole stack of all 3 of those lines come out to 0.
Okay, so you're saying not necessarily 6 months, but that additional.
That's my thoughts. So we're adding one position, but taking a half one off to pay, that actually pays for the one we added. Right.
Yeah. And then we will probably get more revenue because.
Yeah, we'll see, and obviously it'll be only 6 months into it, we'll see what it's doing next. We'll have a few months to see how this is working out.
Yeah, it just would give us a cushion.
So just to be clear, is it consensus then that we'll add in the dollar equivalent hours, $15,061 to the 29,000?
Got half of that back in.
And so that'll, I don't know if that'll be 5 months, but we'll figure out the hours on that.
But it evens out to the 72 for the new position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consensus on that?
With that.
You okay with that, Commissioner Ford?
Yeah.
Okay. We appreciate it. Thank you.
He's going to increase. Yeah.
Okay. Not to jump around, but I did talk with John Ellerman and he would like to withdraw his request of custodian. He said because of the way that David is doing some things, David Willis is doing some things, the way that David Adams is doing some things at his new EMS, and the way that Russell said he was going to do some things in his building, he thinks he can forego that custodial position for another year. So they're talking about potentially doing maybe not daily services, but weekly or something in those other buildings. So.
Okay. Go ahead and no.
Yes, so that leaves us the Historical Museum, the Community Corrections, and the County Attorney. And so Historical Museum, I know Catherine's here. I think you guys have heard the idea here is that she is staffing at this level, needs to staff at this level in order to have the museum have someone there to welcome guests, to work on the projects that they have. I mean, feel free to add better information in.
I don't know if I can add better information. We do understand that, you know, when negotiating this expansion to the time and the hours at the museum, it is a little challenging when we're coming up against essential services versus our quality of life. This position in the realm of museums, however, is essential to us. If we can't staff these hours, we have trouble being open. And so implications of not being able to staff. Now we can always try and search for additional funding outside. We do have a private nonprofit organization that we can approach. Grants may be available for this, but again, none of this is set in stone or guaranteed. Other potential responses to lack in either funding or staff hours would be to really consider the hours of the museum. Do we really need to be open all of these hours? Again, this is a quality of life for our community. We don't want to cut hours, but that might be something that we have to do in the long run.
You're open on Sundays?
We are open every day of the week except for Mondays, and Mondays we do still have salaried staff working.
Is, do you get a lot of people in on the weekends, especially on Sundays?
So weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, from a tourist perspective, are days that we would probably not consider closing. We would probably look more at something like a Tuesday, where our visitation numbers are a little low. While we might be closed for tours those days, our salaried staff would still be present and can assist with research services. So it is always a possibility we could look at Sundays, but Sundays do tend to be times where families and people who work during the regular business week can come and visit the museum.
What are your hours during the week?
Hours during the week, Tuesday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. And then these as needed positions also do support us in some of those extra programs. So like if fireside chats or walking tours or special events take place outside of the regular business days, we do call on these staff members to assist.
I'm gonna say no to the rest of the three. I'd rather use the dollars right now to take care of those that we have. I think that's the most important thing.
And after use out, I would look. Tuesday must be more, so, you know.
Something like that.
So, yeah, just, it's like, yeah, I'm sure Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Probably, yeah.
They came to that. You know, I mean, open, have the leads, sometimes, or one day, whatever.
Okay, so do we have consensus then to not approve this request? Is that what I'm hearing?
I haven't heard anything yet, so if we're not gonna have consensus unless it's a no, then we need a vote if you're going to approve one of the next three.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a huge.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Something, so.
And these positions, you know, historically, and actually, they're just our least expensive positions. We do rely on our as needed quite a bit. You know, they only have their taxes are only 7.78% of their salary. So, you know, that we don't offer capers, we don't offer insurance. The vast majority of benefits are not included. And so, you know, if you're thinking about covering hours and in the future potentially needing to expand other types of staff, this is obviously a much more economical way to go.
Although it looks economical on this individual sheet as far as cheap, any increase in personnel move you make is the most expensive thing you can do because it goes on every year.
Yeah, so, yeah, obviously that's going to totally be the case.
Sure.
Sorry.
The museum did cut some of their budget as well to move some expenses over to the Historical Society as well. It wasn't exactly, you know, it didn't come out to the $10,511, but it was around $7,000.
I think it was 45.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, $4,500. But if that helps your decision at all, they did reduce their budget to move over to the society. So
So.
Yeah, there's not a consensus. To pass anyway.
Unless we could reduce the 650 hours maybe in half, that would offset that would help with the, you know, be offset with your budget.
That surely would be of assistance to us.
Would that help?
Yes, it would.
Something like that.
325.
Yeah, 325 instead of 650. If that would work.
That would be excellent.
Okay.
I guess such motion.
I make a motion to approve the, excuse me, as needed, assistant position adding $325.
I would second that.
Then moving seconded to add the as needed position for 325 hours. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
So if we move to community corrections, you can see what this is. It's an additional 180 hours. And I will just, I think Megan's coming to share, but I will share that Brittany and my concern is that this is going to be spent if they need it, whether or not it's approved. So we can budget it in. The problem is that we have to have these on-call hours and we have to respond. Yeah, and so I don't want to be like too blatant about it, but this is an error that was made two budget cycles ago that was trying to.
We had that discussion 2 budgets ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and we encouraged the department at that time not to cut the hours and base it on what the need was for the actual on-call. And I think they were trying to, you know, make numbers meet. But this is just an inaccurate number. So I don't know if you have any.
But I thought this is an optional service. This is what has to be done.
Yeah, and then we need to present it in this format. We need to make sure that everyone understands, but when we have to have on call and we have to have them respond, we don't have a choice.
it is an essential function of our agency. So
And I will say also, they have done a lot of making sure they've got a couple salaried staff and they do try to do that salaried staff do cover a lot of hours because then there's not a charge. But this is a all night, all weekend type of situation.
Thank you. Yes. Do you have any questions about any of that?
Just leaving it. Wait, it doesn't matter.
I know, and I'm sorry to put you in that type of just frank situation, but it is what has happened.
Is there a consensus or they need to vote on it?
Well, to me, I mean, if you're just gonna have to do it anyway, then that would even budget for it in the future, just leave it off. Just gonna have to do what we're gonna have to do with it. Right. And then somewhere along the way, maybe you could reallocate some funds to cover it. It's not part of.
I mean, I'm not sure I'm following. I'm not sure I understand.
I think we needed to be here today or approach you to make sure that we had your approval to meet those number of hours.
Yes.
We have budgeted for it. We just needed to increase the total number of hours to ensure that we had your approval to do that.
Yeah, their current approval on their budget is this lower number. And so we want to be able to budget in the right amount of numbers that we're realistically going to use and not have a surprise at the end. You guys know how tight the community corrections budget is, and they, I would say, likely not be able to find another $3,600. So they would be coming to you for, but Brittany, you probably have the right words, but a transfer would be what I would call it.
Well, we accounted for it this year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So on their fiscal year budget application this year, they budgeted for the increase in hours. So we've already accounted for that in the transfer request. But this was just the right way to go about taking the requests to all of you, because it used to be 600, that was the standard, and then the last director reduced it down to 420. We highly recommended that not be done, and now we're back in this situation where we're asking for it to go back to 6.
You're saying it's in their budget already, so that in there twice?
No, for the Kansas Department of Corrections this year, when we completed our budget, we accounted for 600 hours.
So this is in addition to the
This is in addition to the 600.
No,
This will get us to what the budget they submitted to the state, because we needed to submit that prior to this timeframe.
But is it in our budget numbers as presented?
It's a very question. Yes, I believe it is.
It is?
Yeah.
So really, this is just
the formality.
solidifying things as in policy.
Yeah, it's not gonna change it, but
It's in that.
if you disapprove,
In this.
well,
Yeah.
except you've never approved it. You've never approved the additional hours. And if you do that today, it will not change the budgets that Brittany has presented.
But we're talking about the budget. You could bring that back into a car. We could discuss that separately as part of their budget. Since it's already budgeted.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, if you want us to do that differently.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in this number.
So it's
Bottom line, none of this is on twice.
Yes, you're right.
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah.
Agreed.
So it is an expanded position. And I guess the way we've done in the past, if we have not included it in their budget, we've included it here and then went back to add.
But Commissioner,
But this-
right, it should have been done through a car as a policy.
Should have been added on.
Change.
The second, that's the first one we should have taken care
The
of.
commissioners all along thought this $312 is all new dollars going into the
Yeah.
budget. It's not.
That's right.
Yeah.
So basically, that's
We
zero.
approved it, but it's no, we're approving it at zero cost, so.
Yes.
The costs are already in somewhere else.
So the board consensus to agree with the community correctional juvenile intake expanded change. I mean,
We can,
we're already doing it. The budget's accounted for.
it would be a zero amount rather than
Correct.
30.
Yeah, no
36.
no addition to the current number.
Yeah, I guess that's what we should say. No addition here. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry for the confusion. That's, yeah. Okay, so that just leaves us the county attorney position, the criminal investigator. And I think you guys have all been made aware by Barry that they feel very much that they need this position. You know the facts of it, so.
I talked to Barry secondarily, and he said he'd rather have his people taken care of, and they're okay with not having a position.
Is it, we just added an attorney last
You
year?
did.
Year before?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
And we expanded one in order to get a good one on top of it too.
Yeah.
And he mentioned both of those.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Consensus of the board and now on county attorney's request.
They're terrible.
Yeah, I talked to him about it.
Okay.
They're gonna continue to ask for it, just so you know, but yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna update everything. So I'll update everybody's budget. I'll send out final copies to all department heads of what their budgets look like with these adjustments. And then I'll update, obviously, the worksheet, send that to all of you as well. Thursday is the day that we have to set the notice of intent to exceed R&R. So, I guess with that, are there any other changes that you would like to see?
Yeah. I thought about CIP just a little bit. I've lost, okay. I thought at least $750,000 amount to fill out of there.
To get down, look at the overall number. I mean, I know we can't provide it, it could be more.
No.
I bet even if we kept it at the same. How much it's. Basically took it up. Get it close to that and go ahead. My guess is they can go to the half of CIP we have at the bottom end.
Well, just have one other thing that may help offset that, maybe get it down around $1 million, but there is quite a bit of overage in Public Works. To start with, we discussed it early. They've had it. Not including personnel, but a remaining balance of 257,000. I know they took 50 off, but I feel comfortable maybe moving that 250 over, leaving the other 57 for personnel. And if we wanted to do then just $1 million on the CIP, that would get us closer.
Okay, 250.
Yeah. That'd be out of actual Public Works and not out of CIP. Yeah. They've got quite a bit of an. No,
Well, I'm not following.
this would be out of Public Works. It'd be out of their transfer, right?
Certainly, but again, say 250.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
That's not CIP. CIP is separate.
Right, CIP and then $1 million out of CIP.
Rich, explain that a little bit.
Explain what?
Explain the transfer out of Public Works a little bit better.
Not a transfer.
Well, I mean, if you reduced Public Works 250,000, that's all you would do is reduce that budget, 250,000.
And that's just coming out of the overage that they've had.
That'd just be their budget, you know. I mean, based on the information we discussed earlier here on how much they've had at the end of the year in 3 Cs.
In 24, they actually had 790.
But does that include?
That includes personnel.
That includes personnel. So when you put the personnel back into it, it actually took it down to about 257.
But what all
I don't
departments,
keep dry,
but what all departments only commissioners, I think, know, your total overage of 790, if they overspent their 3 Cs and they still have money left in personnel, they're not gonna be a budget violation because they still have complete budget authority to spend it on whatever.
That CIP reduction, I think
That's what I'm just clarifying. That's it. Close.
So how would $1 million impact CIP
I don't,
as far as requested?
we would have to reduce, you would have to not approve some requests. You do, absolutely. You do. And we also, just for thought, we have our strategic plan that we're doing a lot of projects with too, so. That would impact, future requests from department heads if we didn't transfer the full amount. I did a calculation of just reducing by 750,000. That would only leave $28,000 additional to be planted in there because we have bond payments in there and then.
Don't see for existing CIP by 250. Because we had 750. That accounted for. Right.
Well, for new projects,
Yeah, leaving a remainder of 778. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so if we did the transfer, yeah, you're right. It would be a negative 250.
Yeah, like I said, with CIP, we can go well below R and make the budget balance. What you have to remember is this commission's been here a while, and it was at your intention that we got this large CIP balance to start before Corey came to the commissioners and Corey said, okay, the department heads want to know if we're going to spend a lot of money on a strategic plan, which we paid someone to perform for us. And you're going to promise these department heads renovations of these facilities and or new facilities. Is the money going to be there? And then are you going to do it? And so you continue to whittle and whittle away and then you don't.
But it's gone up $10 million each of the last 2 years.
You lost 2 million in revenue almost last year too. And so you can do whatever you want. There are just impacts, and what commissioners I think know is you're not just making the budget for this year. It impacts it out into perpetuity. So.
Well, you can probably be able to cover what to do.
No,
I think so.
and,
I mean, our one big project, we're not gonna have enough money for, even if we do or don't. I mean, that's just that. But in terms of the other additions and renovations, I think we'll be okay. By taking $1 million or $1.25 million down to get the budget at least flat,
I'm concerned about expenses that will be for our projects, with rising tariffs up and down, we don't know. We should have some, we've got to push it.
still have to.
Well, that doing these studies, we have a better idea. And next year, if we need to come more into whatever again this year. We've got enough cover.
Okay, so do we want to cut the CIP transfer by $1 million? We have consensus?
250 for public works too.
Well, we haven't had a consensus on that yet.
I know.
On the public works. Or you agree to cut public works budget $250,000? If not, we need one of you two to make a motion.
Well, they're gonna be covered for all the projects.
That's just overage.
Overage.
We're not, that's fine.
Their consensus?
Yeah, on both of those.
Okay. Any other changes that you would like to see?
Not at the moment, but we're still scraping.
Okay.
Need to see what this all.
There, yeah, you changed a lot. Okay, so I'm. I mean, if I sat down, yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through all the changes and make sure I have everything accurate. So the appraiser, you approved those positions. Health department, you approved both positions, but adding in that equivalent 15,061, however that correlates to hours. Public Works was removed based on John's request. Museum cut to 325 hours. Community Corrections was approved, and county attorney was not approved because Barry's didn't need it. And then CIP transfer, we're cutting $1 million, and Public Works, we're cutting 250,000.
Sound good?
Okay, so I will bring all of those changes on Thursday and the intent to exceed R&R. We can still make changes after we set that, but Thursday is the absolute last day that we have to sign that. Otherwise, statutorily, you will be held at last year's revenues. Okay.
And just take money.
This production is going.
Yeah.
Mics. Next word. If it's one mic. Mic, like they do on TED Talks. Yeah, they got a little mic that it.
We need like headsets where we can talk to each other. It's okay.
I don't have anything to do about that enough.
You have questions. So it's not related to conditions.
Thank God, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the July 14th meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
Moving second, adjourn the July 14th meeting with the county commission on there.
Aye.
Aye.
If they